we're on the way to one of my grandpa's appointments in Mayo, which is in Rochester. It's just a hospital there. But we were getting in the car and we needed to fill up on gas. And I'd asked my grandma before if we should fill up, and I was driving down earlier that morning, and then we had she just said we'd fill up on the way, and then we got in the car, and my grandpa drove past one of the gas stations in there, and then they were driving the one that they always go to, but it was full, so he said we'd get it further down the way, knew where another one was. And so we were driving down the highway, and then he was going to pull over to a gas station, and I was just kind of starting out listening to people in the car, not really paying attention to the road. And then I heard kind of felt the car turning to go across the other lane, and I heard my grandma say my grandpa's name. She sounded startled, I guess, but I looked up and saw the other car coming, and then I looked forward and screamed at my grandpa and saw the car hit out of the corner of my eye. And yeah, it's kind of, you're stuck. You know it's coming and you want to be out of it, but you're kind of just stuck there. And then when we got hit, I went and hit my sister's seat from the impact, and then the car stopped, and I hit the window with my shoulder and part of my head, and broke open the window. And then the first thing after the accident, I remember looking at my feet, and my sandals got knocked off my feet, and they're just sports sandals, so they're not really tied on very well. And then I just remember seeing a lot of glass and blood, and looking up at my grandparents and noticing that they're at the least unconscious. I don't know how far, if they were dead or not. And then I was kind of afraid to look over at my sister, and I just yelled at her to get out of the car, hoping she'd follow me out. And I just unbuckled my seatbelt and kind of tried to jump out of the car, and we just fell out on the ground, which the car was over past the shoulder, in the sort of in a little ditch on a hill too, and just fell out of the car. And then I was having a hard time staying conscious. I think I was on my hands and knees, and I could feel, grasp it. Everything was faded gray, and when you stand up too quick and you get lightheaded, it's kind of that. But I was just kind of trying to stay awake, and then I heard my sister yelling for me up the hill a little bit, and so I had known she got out and was okay as far as I could tell, and I just kind of told her I'd be up there in a minute, and I just needed to lay down. And a whole bunch of people stopped and were helping us, and someone gave me their phone to call my mom, and then when they found my stuff, I called my mom on my phone and sent her a text message. I think my sister called my mom too, but her phone hadn't been working for a while, or she would get calls and text messages late, and for some reason it just happened to get through that day, and my sister's call didn't get through till a couple days later, and my mom just called me back. And then I had kind of crawled up to my sister after I called my mom the first time, and then just laid by her, and people are taking care of her and helping clean up blood and stuff. And then my mom had called me back when the paramedics were putting C-collars on us and putting us on boards, and I kind of was just saying, I think we're okay, we seem we're fine, or that we'll be okay. And then I kind of told her that I didn't think my grandma was going to make it. Just looking back at the car, after finally did, because it took me a while to even, like, want to look at the car. And then I saw that my grandpa was, like, talking to people, or, like, really out of it, but he was still conscious, and then my grandma still wasn't conscious, so and just, like, from how the car looked, too, I just told my mom I didn't think she was gonna make it, and, I guess then I told her I had to go, because they were starting to load us on the ambulances, and then, like, when they were putting us in, I saw a fireman, like, bring up the jaws of life, and then just, like, hearing the crunching of metal once they're slamming the door shut of the ambulance and getting us out of there. And I guess they were going to have one of us go with each of my grandparents, but my sister asked if she could go with me, because, like, she's afraid of getting put in the same ambulance with my grandma. I think if she was, like, worried that she wouldn't make it to the hospital. And yeah, and then we're in the ambulance, and I'm just, like, hearing about them talking about, like, injuries and stuff. We didn't really know. I mean, like, we definitely have, like, a medical background in our family, but we don't really know, like, all the terms and stuff, so I was just kind of worried, and I think they were worried about my sister, since she was so close to the impact, that if she had, like, more internal injuries. And so I kind of just, like, I think she was worried about it too, so I just, like, reached my hand over and, like, held her hand when we were riding the ambulance, and then kind of just started praying, like, if something, like, if one of us had to have, like, serious injuries, it wouldn't be her, or just because, like, I don't know, she's my little sister, I kind of feel responsible for her sometimes, but, yeah.
The way you're telling it, it seems like you were able to stay fairly calm. Is that the way it was? I mean, it wasn't something where you were really frantic?
Yeah, I think initially, like, when it was happening, I was, like, really scared, and then, like, right afterwards, I kind of just, like, screamed or yelled just to, like, release tensions, or just, like, take a deep breath, kind of just let it out, and then after that, I was kind of like, okay, I need to, like, calm down, and just, I mean, like, it helped a lot, too, to have people that had stopped, so I didn't have to worry too much about calling ambulances to come get us or something, so, and that helped a lot, but I think I was pretty calm during it, or just, like, waiting for the ambulances to come, and, like, being in the emergency room, just, like, trying to take care of stuff, because I guess I was kind of the one that had to, so I think it kind of made me calm, I guess. But
I can't imagine what the conversation would have been like with your mother. I mean, talk a little bit about that right after.
Well, she had called me back and said that she was on her way, and she, like, I think she was about 3 hours away, and I thought she had said, like, an hour away, but, so it's kind of confusing, once we got in the emergency room, and, like, asking how far away she was, but, I think it was kind of hard to tell her that I didn't think my grandma was going to make it, and she is coming, and I think she was speeding, but she said she wasn't going to be dumb about it, like, she wasn't going to go more than, like, 10 over, I guess, but she said she was coming, like, as quickly as she could, but she's trying to be, like, as safe as she could about it, because she didn't want to, like, cause something else bad to happen, so.
But obviously pretty immediately you're aware of how severe it was. I mean, does that even, are you able to really even process that, though, at that time?
No, I kind of just, I kind of just, like, said it, but, like, I knew that it's true, like, you hope, like, you obviously hope for the best, but, sometimes it's not the plan, and just kind of the severity of it, and like how bad the cars looked, and just like seeing my grandma and like what kind of shape she was in. And I think it was kind of more obvious that like it was gonna be like either she was gonna make it or there'd be like a really, really long road to recovery, I think. And that's what the doctors had told us too, is that if she had made it, it would have been like months or years, and she probably wouldn't have been the same person, like, because her brain got so damaged by it.
How long has it kind of taken you to be able to, I guess, to talk about it and to kind of recover both mentally and physically?
Well, I think I'm probably still recovering from both, and but I know the first couple days, like first day especially, just whenever like I was afraid to go to sleep or like close my eyes, just because whenever you did, it's kind of like burned into your mind, and when you do, you just get like flashbacks of like being in the accident or right after the accident, or like during the day, or like being in the hospital. And I know for like whenever I did sleep, I'd usually dream about it, and I'd wake up because of it. And I think it took like a few months to stop dreaming about it. And then, you know, like coming here, it's kind of, don't really know anybody real well, or just like you've met them before, but you don't really know them. So I think I kind of made some friends quick, and like all the freshmen like hang out and stuff, which is easier. And I like hadn't told them about it for a little while, but I like talked to some girls on the team because they asked questions about it during preseason. I kind of gave them half answers, or just didn't really talk about the whole thing. But then I know one of the girls, I like left a note on her door about it like one time, and like before a game she like came over and just like we can go talk about this, like if you want to. But she just kind of offered to go talk to like about it with me, and I think that was like definitely like the support system just kind of like built in. And like I've talked to a bunch of them about it too, just like one-on-one, or the freshmen did life stories, so we kind of all talked about it, and that was a big thing that came up in mine. So, and
besides maybe some of the support you've had from teammates, what are some of the things that have kind of helped you cope with it, whether it be kind of maybe it's brought you closer to your family and faith, and maybe some of those things have helped you kind of cope through?
I know, like, I definitely have wanted my sister in there, like, with me, but since she was, I just kind of has someone else who knows what you're going through. I think the first couple of days we sat by each other when we couldn't sleep, or like when we did try to sleep, we'd just like be there for each other, just like whenever one of us wakes up with a nightmare, it's kind of like the other one would wake up too. But yeah, and I think just all the little things that ended up happening, or like I hear about after the accident, about like who was there to help us. I think Army EMT, I was there and like helping my sister, and like the people that had owned the business had stopped and helped us. And like one of my cousin's friends was there who knew my grandparents, and he like got a hold of my cousin, and he called my aunt, who got to the emergency room. So that was like a big help. And I think we found my grandma's Bible after the accident, and she just had like names and stuff in there too. And I mean, there's like a little bit of closure, just because you can like go through and like find names from people in my family or like some of her friends that we knew, and just like kind of read the verses that she would write their name by, and it was like you kind of knew what she was thinking, or like you knew probably what situation they were going through at that time, and that just like helped, I think, some with closure. And then I think my aunt had said that my grandma might have been ready to go, or like thought it was soon, because she had surgery the week before for cancer, but like even at that point she's like, well, this could be it, like you don't know. And then like a week later, like it just was a week later than she thought it was, kind of. And I think she had been talking about like the past couple years that she had felt like she had done what God had told her to do, or like had planned for her, and didn't really feel like there was much else that she was supposed to be doing. So I think that helped a lot, and just like being able to let go, or just like knowing where she is and stuff. But I think like getting better physically wise, I think soccer like helped a lot. Just it kind of gives you something to work towards, instead of just like getting better physically. Like I'm getting better for a reason, and like I love playing soccer, so it just usually makes me feel better anyways. And I think is like soccer's a big part of the reason why I came here. And I think it's just like a lot of the like coincidences, which I think are really not coincidences, they're like God things, where I mean if I need anything, I mean I have there's an emergency room like a block away, and like the chiropractor that I have to go to is a couple blocks away, and just like the people here that just, I mean, it makes it a lot easier. And I think if I was at a different school, I think it'd be a different story, or just be harder to deal with.
How have your sister and grandpa been able to deal with it?
I think my sister's doing pretty well. I mean, she plays volleyball, and like she has some good friends on the team, and I think it helps being at home with my parents. Just, she depends a lot on them, I'm sure. And my brother's still in Colorado Springs too, so she probably talks to him too. And I mean, we would talk on the phone some to begin with. And then my grandpa, I try to call him sometimes. I mean, like, I think the first few times it was really hard to call him and like talk to him about it, just because he didn't really remember much of the accident. I mean, he remembered like getting towards the spot that we were, and then he woke up during, and then he didn't remember until he got to the point of like where he was at the hospital and like conscious for a while. So I mean, it's hard because that's kind of what he wanted to talk about a lot of the time, which I was okay with, but it's just like kind of having to like break the news to him, like on how like traumatizing it was, and just like what had happened. But I mean, my aunt lives up there with one of my cousins now, so the other one went to college, but so he has like somewhat of a support system, and it's a small town, so people look after you, I think. And his church too helps a lot too. So.
How hard was it to come to school here so soon after that happened? You're already leaving your family for the first time, going off to college. How hard was that? And was there any doubt about, I'm not sure if I want to leave now?
I don't know, I kind of felt like I had to go, or that it'd be good for me to like kind of start out on my own, or like start school. And I mean, leaving my house was hard, just because I felt like I was leaving my sister, and I didn't know like if I would need her, if she'd need me, like through the process. And I mean, like you can call, but I think it's definitely different just being in person, there for each other. Just, I mean, like knowing that they're around just even helps, because they've been through the same thing. But yeah, I think that was probably the hardest part. And then like once my parents had like came here and dropped me off, I think I was okay. Like, I felt like I was where I needed to be, or like that I'd be taken care of, or I'd have everything I needed. So.
How satisfying for you was it to get back onto the soccer field? I think it was in the middle of September when you first played in a game here at Concordia.
Well, it's a lot of fun. And like, I'd missed it even just for like the couple months I couldn't play. I don't know. I think soccer's like really helped me get through it. So I think when I could finally actually play and like play in a game too, and like recovering, I was trying to dive, which was like painful, but then like I think once I started playing, it just gave me that much more drive to get better and like get as close to 100% as I can. And like diving initially was pretty hard, and like it just hurt. And I was like frustrated with myself. I couldn't make it to the post or a little past the post like I'd used to be able to do. And it's kind of just like people will tell you like, you know, you're doing good, you're doing fine, and you're just like, it's like, it's not me yet, it's not how far I can be. Like, I know where my limitations are, and like this isn't it. And just, I don't know, like there was one game where I was like, I had talked to the chiropractor and just like, like if it's hurting, is it gonna like do anything worse? And he said like, not from like what I was doing, like I should be fine. So then there was one game where I just kind of had enough, and I was like, well, just like suck it up and like dive. And then it was just like one of the shots was like out to the post, and it was like the first time I made it out to the post was in the Morningside game, and I just kind of felt like that was definitely like a huge step, just like I can get back to where I was and then start to push forward after that.
Last thing, do you think the situation has changed you in any way? Maybe you've gained a perspective that you didn't have before the accident.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I've grown a lot spiritually, and then just like trusting God more, and just like feeling a lot closer to Him. And like, I think afterwards I felt like a lot more like like He was looking out for me a lot more, just because of all the circumstances that had happened. And I mean, like, no one wants to go through that, but then like hearing about it afterwards, and like all the little things that happened to like help us out, or like why we weren't in worse shape than we were, and just like even coming here, it's like I definitely feel like it was all planned out. And sometimes you feel like you know what's like in His plan for you, but I mean, obviously I didn't. But I think it definitely helps just kind of, I mean, don't necessarily make plans, because I think God will change them, like if He needs to or wants to. So it's just kind of like definitely a lot more trust and stuff. So.
Okay.